Hello everyone, and thank you for downloading and your interest in today's video, which is 2014, the year of Audience Centric Selling. My name is Brett Kierstead. I'm Vice President of Sales for Knowledge Marketing, and today I want to share with you the top insights from clients that we have in the publishing industry that are really looking at 2014 as an inflection year on how they use audience data integrated across all their channels to increase sales and drive additional revenue. So the reasons this is happening, as many of you know, is there's a change driver in the consumer side, the readership side, and the advertiser side of what their expectations are. It's being driven by technology, it's being driven by new reader behavior, by macroeconomic issues, recession, the lingering issues that are coming from that, economic changes, individual pressures on companies from a performance perspective, the trend of big data, competition and content among some of the folks at the bottom of the screen as LinkedIn gets into publishing. Google provides an economic model from an advertising perspective that impacts all advertisers. And now with Mr. Bezos' acquisition of the Washington Post, now you've got an Amazon-type mentality moving into the world of publishing. So the expectation that's creating on your customer side is more frequency of information and data about your audience, a completer profile, so more information on the individuals, volume, so more leads, more contacts, more impressions, more readership of their content, accuracy of information, precision of targeting. And we want to make sure that the message is getting out to the right people, and predictability of the results. So all of these factors are forcing fundamental changes in terms of how media and publishing companies sell their space and their time and their audience to their advertisers. You know, if you think about it as how you've gone to market, in the past your clients have expected from you audited data with a very specific piece of information at a very specific point in time. Today you've got more information, you've got demographic data online, you've got data from different channels, you may have titles and events and all of these things grouped together. But as things move forward, again, the expectation continues to ratchet up, where more dynamic information, more targeting, demographic, contextual, behavioral information, all driven by this big data trend. And something that's been going on in the consumer world and various other spaces is pushing into B2B and even B2C media online, where we have to make adjustments. And so this unified audience, this database, is really the catalyst from a sales perspective that allows you to use things like marketing automation, responsive design, native advertising, that allows for targeting of an advertiser's message to a specific place. And the question about whether it's time to go, and obviously not everybody wants to be an early adopter, but right now we did a little survey of a group of individuals, and specifically a quarter of all salespeople felt that today they were leading with an audience-centric sales presentation. 40% say they're being trained or asked to move that way, and only about a third really continue to feel like they are being ad-centric for the foreseeable future. So organizationally, how do you get there? And when we talk to our clients, here's the really three big considerations that you need if you're going to make some of these changes for 2014 and beyond. They're organizational, they're functional, and they're financial. And I'll give you a couple of tips in each one of them that we've gleaned from our customers. So number one, organizationally, there's two little tips that we see as companies go and roll out different audience-centric initiatives: making sure you document and making sure you develop an identity. So again, when we talk about use cases, so you think about audience data, and a lot of people think this is a database project or it's a sales initiative, but it really impacts all parts of an organization. So as you sit to plan out 2014, which is, as many of you know, is right around the corner, and you want more of an audience-centric approach, you want to make sure you can incorporate different input from all these various different constituents: executives, editors, marketing events people, audience development, sales, clients, IT. Each of these guys have an impact. So when building an audience-centric model, make sure that you incorporate feedback in from all these groups. The second thing is you always have to think about cross-brand, cross-channel. Each of these different universes that you have now, these wonderful emerging channels for your content, each have an impact on how you build your data and how you use your audience information and what information is collected and what are you gathering and what insights are you gleaning. And there's impact on each one. Sometimes events, they need to participate in the process. Your print products, you can get certain pieces of information, primarily demographic data. Your websites can tell you additional amounts of content about an individual's click and open behavior. Same thing as email. There's a whole bunch of information available, and you want to make sure when you plan it is that you look at all these individual groups and areas and how they come together. And again, documentation is key. We see a lot of people make the mistake of just creating data or building data, and they don't document expectations. They don't look at those individual groups and document those use cases. The second thing is, and again, is creating a brand identity. An area that we're seeing a lot of success is that when you look at your audience, your unified data that you have across all your channels, is creating an identity for it. This is a picture of Advanced Stars, a great client of ours that really leverages and leads with a brand around what their data offers them. This integrated profile of all of this information comes together that they lead with, and it makes it easier for the salespeople to be out front with audience-centric selling when they have an asset like this. So again, organize your data, think use cases, and create a brand when you're building out an organization that allows you to be successful in 2014. The second area relates to function. So you're creating the system. What are two good tips on that? Number one, there's more to data than just the data itself. And number two, user interface is critical. So again, you built this organization, you're creating these data assets for you, this functional tool. How do you build something that is the most effective? The first thing is understanding all of your data requirements. There's no substitute for just traditional consulting and looking at all the different sources that you have. What are all the various different inputs? What lists do you have? Registrants, subscribers, behaviors. And in what mechanism do you want to get that data to you? Everybody thinks everything is real time, but that's not really practical. So when you inventory and map out the way you want to build a project to build this unified data to sell audience-centric selling, you really want to think about it holistically. Don't just jump in and start combining data without understanding timing, impact, updating, sources, format, and then the actual use for that data in the back end. So again, don't jump into a project without focusing on understanding your data requirements thoroughly, the frequency of update, and how it relates to the different actions that you want to take. The second issue that we see is a lot of people build data structures, and if you want to take this out to be audience-based selling, you have to make that data accessible to those salespeople. So big reams of Excel spreadsheets and text files and downloads and everything sound great, and there's some insight there, but it's not useful. So the goal as we try and transition forward, and when you think about 2014 and beyond, if you're looking at audience data intelligence, you want to make sure that you have accessibility in a user interface that is easy to access, something that is graphical, something that is insightful, something that salespeople can leverage and your marketing people can leverage, and the different parts of your business can look at very simply. And so when they take the audience message out, there's something to work with. So again, when planning the data piece functionally, make sure you consider all sources and make sure that you also look at accessibility of data. User interface is critically important. The third area is financial. So when you're planning an audience data method, you want to be out there selling, you want to transition to sales organization, you want 2014 to be the year you lead with that. Here's two financial considerations. Number one is, do you understand how to capture max value? And number two, have you created an infrastructure to sell additional services? So the preciseness of targeting is critical. So again, in an ad-centric world, we tend to sell CPM. We tend to sell names, blocks of names with demographic data. And let's say that has this very large universe or a larger universe. Advertisers, however, want more specificity. They don't just want 1,000 CTOs or 500 CTOs. They want 500 CTOs that are engaged in your content, that have attended different combination of events, that are interested in topics that are relevant to them, that are recent, that have hit content related to their brand, and that's going to create a smaller universe for you. Now, it's a much highly targeted universe. Instead of a 500 name spam, you've got a 100 name, very targeted campaign initiative with very specific content that you know is highly beneficial. The trick is, from a pricing perspective, is how do you capture additional value? So when you plan out any audience-based selling initiative and working with your team, if you're going to match advertiser expectations in terms of a more qualified targeted lead with a lot more enriched data, you have to have a pricing methodology. So don't just blindly rush into this and start giving away your very highly valued prospects to your advertisers and to your exhibitors or whoever your client is without making sure you have a good, strong way of capturing additional pricing value. So again, instead of an impression base, we have seen clients go to a CPM, to a CPL for a lead model, and even more in-depth into a CPQL, which might be a qualified lead model. Again, higher price point, more targeted, more enriched data. The second thing is an upselling a service, and this is an emerging area moving forward as the marketing services mantra continues to build, is you thinking through additional sources that you can offer, but doing so with a wary eye to impacts you might have on your clients, their agencies, and others that you might be running in conflict with. So services is a tricky issue. It's sometimes people are getting into it very quickly and they're not thinking through, one, what are services that they can sell? Number two, how do they message it to their clients? And number three, what is the impact when you get into a competitive situation with a key client's agency? So again, look at each of these areas, sit down with your key clients and be realistic about what opportunities exist for you to sell. What can you deliver upon in these areas? What are your clients receptive to buying, and what is the impact that it may have on your potential agencies that you've been relying on and working with today? So again, 3 considerations for you in 2014, a couple of tips hopefully you can take away as you plan out your next year: organizational changes, functional changes, and financial changes that allow you to move from traditional ad selling into a more audience-centric selling model to capture higher value for all the information that you're capturing. Again, if you want to learn more information on Knowledge Marketing's website, there's a bunch of resources. There's some white papers that get into this in a lot more detail, as well as some infographics and content about different changes and different strategies that our clients have been doing to drive functional and organizational change. Thank you again for the time, and best of luck for a great year in 2014.